Hey everybody, welcome to another Fun in 5, bringing you today Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. This is a Stonemaier Games game, so high quality production components, rulebook, etc., all very well done. They've been in the business for quite some time. But we'll tell you 5 things that I like about it. First, I guess it's a 3 to 7 player game, so the player count is a bit odd, but there is a good 2-player variant, so it actually really is a 2 to 7 player game. High player count if you want, low player count if you want. But 5 things I like about it. First thing that stood out to me as soon as we opened this game, I got it as a gift for my birthday, was the storage and kind of component design of the game right out of the box. So when we lifted the lid, you could see that everything was already neatly stored in here. I mean, you had to punch out all of the things, but the storage design, once you get all the punch outs done, and there are a lot of them, for the rest of your game's life, it is stored in these kind of ready to play component trays. So I'll bring images up on the screen of what they look like in the box once the game has already been played. But it's really neat because you shuffle at the end of your game all your tiles, whatever you need to do. And so when you play the game the next time, you just remove the tile lids, toss them to the side, and you're ready to play. I mean, to set up the game is really fast. You just have to give each set of players a throne room, and then you give each player 9 tiles, and the game is ready to go from there. So pretty fast setup and playtime, but just the component structure, how well it comes out of the box and fits in the box is really, really good. And the components are solid quality too. I mean, I can put an image up on the screen, but the tiles are thick, durable, haven't had any problems with them. So that's the first thing. Component design, tray design, very, very good. Second thing I like about the game is the situation that it puts you in for scoring. I haven't ever played a game where you rely on what your opponents are doing so much other than a cooperative game. But this isn't really a cooperative game because you're still trying to win. And the scenario puts you in that, let's say we're playing a 3-player game like this one. I am building a castle with this person. I am building a castle with this person. And I almost have nothing to do with the person across from me. And then at the end of the game, I get scored based on the lowest scoring castle of the 2 castles that I'm building. So if this castle is worth 80 and this castle is worth 65, my score is 65. And then if this player's castles are worth 80 and 65, their lowest score is 65. But then if this player's lowest or scores are 80 and 70, this player's score is 70. So even though we have a castle worth 80, the person who won has a score of 70. It's a bizarre scoring mechanism, but always makes you think, am I overhyping, am I overbuilding this castle on my left more than the one on my right, or vice versa? You're always thinking about your 2 castles and trying to have a balance so that you are scoring well enough on both of them that the gap isn't too high. Because if I score 80 on one castle and 40 on another, I still only get 40 points. It doesn't matter how well I made that castle on the other side. So I really think that's an interesting mechanic and end game scenario where you're building, just trying to balance the 2 out. You don't want to make a terrible castle. You don't want to make an overly fantastic castle because you're not going to win based on a fantastic castle, and you're definitely going to lose if you build a really bad castle. So it's in all players' interest to build decent castles all around the table. And you're drafting these tiles that go around the table, but you're really only drafting 2 at a time. So you can only manipulate the other players on the table a little bit, as opposed to the 2 castles on either side of you. So that scoring mechanism and the thought process that goes behind it throughout the whole game is really, really neat. Third thing I like is that you are building with your other players. So that scoring mechanism works very well with the building with other players. And the game encourages table talk. So the only time you shouldn't really be talking is when you're picking your 2 tiles. So if I'm at the start of the game, I have 9 tiles. I'll pick my 2 tiles. Once everybody's picked their 2 tiles, they can reveal them, and then you can talk to your players as much as you want. So you might talk about who's going to place a tile first, because the next player may be able to build onto it. You might both decide that you want to build the same type of tile so that a player can trigger a bonus or get extra points, or attach the right things to their throne room. There's so many things that go into the scoring of this game that table talk really helps you build the castles the way you want to build them and try to get the scoring. So you're really working well in tandem with either player, trying to place your tile in each castle, because you only place each turn you place 1 tile into each castle, but each player does that, so every castle is getting 2 tiles per turn. So really, really neat how you're constantly trying to build up both, and you're trying to put a balance. Like, do I want utility rooms in here? Do I want to build a basement over here? Is it time to build another fountain or wherever you're building? Always thinking about it on both of your castles. Fourth thing I like is the point system. So it comes with some great player aids, by the way. The rule book is very, very well explained, and the tiles themselves all explain exactly how many points they will be worth at the end of the game, keeping in mind that their points will grow over time depending on how your castle develops. Your points will never diminish, your points will only grow, but you don't really track your points as the game progresses. You just count it all up at the end on this score sheet here. Yeah, but the point system works in various ways because every tile type scores differently. So my food room types score based on what is adjacent to them, specific tile types. My corridors, hallways are scored based on everything around them. My throne room only relies on 2 tiles to score, so every tile type has its own scoring mechanism. And what's even neater about that is that they have a bonus mechanism. So if you play a 3rd tile of any type, so if I play my 3rd outdoor tile, then it triggers a bonus mechanic where I get to build a fountain anywhere legal in my castle. Or if I build which one lets me get my players? If I build a 4th or a 3rd living space, then I can place any one of these 4 types of kind of visitors or occupants into my throne room, and they're worth extra points at the end of the game based on an icon. So then for the rest of the game you may change your strategy a bit to get more of those icons. Or my favorite of the point variables is the utility rooms, where you get to draw 3 utility cards and pick which one is going to affect the point outcome of your castle. So for example, this one here, now at the end of the game, every sleeping chamber I have is worth 2 extra points at the end of the game. So then for the rest of the game, we might be thinking more about adding sleeping chambers because we get that bonus points to them. And so the variability of points on every castle will range so much from game to game, and from even the 2 castles you're playing. You may build this castle completely different than this castle because of what's happening with the tiles you played and the tiles your opponents played. Really intricate scoring point system makes you think all the way through the game. And the game is relatively short. I mean, it's only 2 rounds of 9 tiles. The longest part of the game comes in math and thinking about the tiles you're going to play, and probably in that communication with your partners on how you're going to play your sequence tiles. And then the last thing, the 5th thing I like about the game is how the castles turn out at the end of the game. When you play, you might have castles that go really, really wide, or you may have castles that have super levels of dungeon depths, or you may have tiles that have lots of towers, or maybe they'll be very structural in shape. But it's neat how the castles get laid out. You'll never play a game where the castles look identical because there's too many tiles, and you don't go through all the tiles every game, and there's too many variations in how you play those tiles. So it's neat at the end of a game to look at what kind of castles you built and see what kind of scores you came up with. And, was it your highest scoring castle ever? And was the highest scoring castle still the worst castle in the game because there are lower scoring castles that ended up being everybody's average or whatever? So a lot to say about this game, but I can tell you it is fun in the games that I've played, and I just really like the component quality and the kind of different play aspect that it brings compared to some of the other games, because there's a fun and cooperative element while still trying to win it for yourself. If you played the game, if you built some cool castles, if there's something you like about it, throw it in the comments. Would love to hear it, or share the video, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. But as always, thank you for watching another Fun in 5, and have a great day.